I knew he had found us not because of a scout or a letter, but because the snow began to melt. In the dead of winter, in the frozen village of Norden, the air suddenly turned hot. The icicles dripping from my cottage roof didn't just melt, they evaporated into steam. The birds stopped singing. The village dogs ran under the porches, whining with their tails between their legs. They knew. Animals always know when a predator is near. I dropped the basket of firewood I was holding. My hands started to tremble, a deep, primal fear taking root in my stomach. I looked toward the horizon. The sky wasn't blue anymore. It was turning a bruised shade of purple and gold, the colors of the imperial house of Draconis. "Leo!" I screamed, running back inside the small wooden house. "Leo, where are you?" My son was sitting on the rug by the fireplace, playing with a wooden knight. He looked up at me, his big eyes wide and innocent. But for a split second, his pupils weren't human. They were vertical slits, glowing like molten lava. He clutched his small chest, wincing. "Mama," he whispered, his voice trembling. "It hurts. My heart is burning." I ran to him, scooping him up into my arms. He was hot, not fever hot, furnace hot. His skin felt like it was vibrating. "I know, baby, I know." I hushed him, grabbing his heavy wool cloak and throwing it over his head to hide his face. "We have to play the quiet game now. Remember the quiet game? You have to hide your eyes. You cannot look at anyone. Not until I say so." "Is the bad man coming?" Leo asked, burying his face in my neck. "Yes," I whispered, grabbing a bag I had kept packed for 5 years. 5 years of looking over my shoulder. 5 years of dreading this exact moment. "But I won't let him take you." I kicked the back door open and ran toward the treeline. I was foolish. I thought I could run. I thought a human woman could outrun a dragon king. I didn't make it 10 yards before the sky tore open. A roar shook the earth, so loud it shattered the windows of the village houses. A shadow fell over us, blocking out the sun. I looked up and saw them. 3 massive dragons, their scales glittering like black diamonds, descending from the clouds. They landed in the village square, crushing the fountain. The force of their wings knocked me off my feet. I curled around Leo, protecting him with my body as debris and dust washed over us. Silence followed. Terrifying, heavy silence. Then, footsteps. Heavy, armored boots crunching on the gravel. I looked up through the dust. A man was walking toward us. He didn't need to shout. He didn't need a weapon. His presence alone was enough to make the air heavy, hard to breathe. He was tall, broad-shouldered, wearing black armor etched with gold. His hair was dark as midnight, but his eyes were the color of burning gold. Vertical pupils. King Valerius Draconis, the scourge of the south, the father of the boy shaking in my arms. He stopped 5 feet away from me. He didn't look at me. He looked at the bundle in my arms. He sniffed the air, and a low growl vibrated in his chest, a sound that wasn't human. "You run fast, Elara," he said. His voice was deep, smooth, like velvet wrapped around a dagger. For a human, I scrambled backward, clutching Leo tighter. "Leave us alone." Valerius laughed. It was a dry, humorless sound. "Leave you alone? You stole from me. You stole something precious." He took a step closer. The heat radiating from him was intense. It felt like standing next to an open oven. "I stole nothing," I hissed, finding my courage. "I left. That is not theft. That is survival." "You left," he repeated softly. "After one night, you vanished from my bed before the sun rose. I searched for you. For a year, I tore the kingdom apart looking for the woman who smelled of vanilla and rain. And then, I stopped." He knelt down. He was now at eye level with me. Up close, he was terrifyingly beautiful. "Do you know why I stopped looking, Elara?" I shook my head, terrified. "Because I stopped feeling you," he whispered. But then, today, I felt something else. A spark. A call. He reached out a gloved hand toward Leo. "No!" I tried to slap his hand away. He caught my wrist. His grip was iron, but he didn't crush my bones. He held me there, immobile. With his other hand, he reached for the hood of Leo's cloak. "Don't," I begged, tears streaming down my face. "Please, Valerius. He's just a boy. He's innocent. Don't hurt him." Valerius paused. He looked at me, confused. "Hurt him? Why would I hurt my own blood?" He pulled the hood back. Leo looked up. He was terrified, but he didn't look away. He stared right into the eyes of the Dragon King. And as their gazes met, Leo's eyes shifted. The human brown melted away, revealing the same burning gold, the same vertical slits. Valerius froze. The cruel, arrogant mask fell from his face. He stared at the boy, at the miniature version of himself. He saw the messy dark hair, the shape of the nose, the undeniable power radiating from such a small body. "A son," Valerius breathed. The word sounded like a prayer. He reached out and touched Leo's cheek. His touch was surprisingly gentle. Leo didn't pull away. He leaned into the heat of his father's hand. "You hid a dragon," Valerius said, his voice turning cold again as he looked back at me. "For 5 years. You hid my heir in a frozen shack, eating scraps, living like a peasant. I hid him to keep him safe," I yelled. "I know what you do to your enemies. I know about the wars. I didn't want him to be a weapon." "He is not a weapon," Valerius roared. The ground shook. "He is a king, and he belongs in a palace, not in the mud." He stood up, pulling me with him. He didn't let go of my wrist. "You are done running, Elara." "I won't go with you," I said, digging my heels in. Valerius smiled. It wasn't a nice smile. It was possessive, predatory. "You have no choice. You think I will leave my son here? And you think I will leave the woman who kept him from me unpunished?" He signaled to his guards. "Prepare the ship," he ordered. "We are returning to the capital." He looked at me, his golden eyes burning with a promise of retribution. "Pack your bags, little thief. You wanted to hide? Fine. I will lock you in my tower so tight the sun won't find you unless I allow it." That was how it started. I wasn't rescued. I was captured. The journey back to the dragon capital took 2 days. 2 days of me sitting in a luxurious cabin on an airship, watching Leo stare out the window in wonder. Valerius had tried to give him toys, gold, food. He was awkward, hesitant. He didn't know how to be a father. He only knew how to be a conqueror. "Mama, is he the bad man?" Leo asked, playing with a solid gold coin Valerius had given him. "He is complicated," I sighed. The door opened. Valerius walked in. He had removed his armor, wearing only a black tunic that emphasized the width of his shoulders. He looked less like a monster and more like a man, which somehow made him more dangerous. "We arrive in an hour," he said. "There will be a court reception. You will stand beside me. You will not speak. You will let me present the boy." "You mean present your heir," I corrected bitterly. "He has a name, you know. Leo." "Leo." Valerius tested the name. A lion's name. Fitting. He walked over to the window, looking at the boy. Leo looked up at him. "Can you fly?" Leo asked suddenly. Valerius blinked. "Yes. Can I fly?" "One day," Valerius said. "When your wings come in, I will teach you." He looked at me. "I will teach him everything you kept from him. Magic, flight, fire. He will be the strongest dragon lord in history." "And will you teach him how to love?" I asked quietly. "Or just how to kill?" Valerius flinched. He turned on his heel and marched toward the door. "Love makes you weak," he stated. "I will teach him how to rule. That is enough." He slammed the door. I looked at the capital approaching below us, a sprawling city of black stone and lava rivers. It was beautiful and terrifying. I was walking into the lion's den, but this time I wasn't alone. I had a dragon of my own to protect. And if Valerius thought he could just take my son and push me aside, he was going to learn a very painful lesson. A mother's love is a magic stronger than any dragon fire. When we landed, the spectacle was overwhelming. Trumpets blared. Thousands of citizens cheered. Valerius walked down the ramp of the airship carrying Leo in one arm. He held him up like a trophy. The crowd went wild when they saw the boy's eyes. I walked behind them, flanked by guards. I felt like a prisoner of war. We were escorted to the Obsidian Palace. It was a maze of dark corridors and heat. "This is your wing." Valerius opened a set of double doors. It wasn't a cell. It was a suite larger than my entire village. Silks, gold, jewels. A massive balcony overlooking the lava falls. "It is nice," I admitted, refusing to be impressed. "It is secure," Valerius corrected. "There are wards on the windows and doors. You cannot leave without my escort." "So it is a prison." I crossed my arms. "It is a gilded cage." Valerius stepped closer, invading my personal space. He smelled of smoke and cedar. "You stole 5 years of my life, Elara. 5 years I missed my son's first steps. His first words. You owe me." "I owe you nothing." I poked him in the chest. "You were a one-night stand, Valerius. You told me you were a mercenary. You lied first." "I am a king," he roared, his eyes flashing. "I cannot just tell a tavern girl who I am." "Well, this tavern girl raised your son while you were busy starting wars." He grabbed my hand. The anger in his eyes shifted into something else. Something hotter. "And you did a good job," he whispered, his voice dropping. "He is healthy, strong. You protected him." He looked at my lips. "I should hate you," he murmured. "I should throw you in the dungeon for what you did." But he didn't finish the sentence. He let go of my hand and backed away. "Dinner is at 8. Wear something appropriate. Burn those peasant rags." He left. I sank onto the massive bed. My heart was pounding. He hated me. He wanted me. He wanted to punish me and reward me at the same time. I looked at the closet. Inside were dresses of red velvet, black silk, gold lace. They were the clothes of a queen. He had bought them. He had prepared for this. I realized then that Valerius hadn't just stopped looking for me because he lost my scent. He stopped because it hurt too much. He wasn't just a monster. He was a lonely monster. And that made him infinitely more dangerous. Because a lonely monster doesn't want to just capture you. He wants to keep you. Forever. Dinner was a silent affair. A table long enough to seat 20 people with just me, Valerius, and Leo. Leo was happily eating a leg of roasted beast that was bigger than his head. He was adapting quickly. Too quickly. "He needs a tutor," Valerius said, watching Leo eat. "And combat training." "He is 5, I said. "He needs bedtime stories and naps." "He is a dragon," Valerius countered. "He needs to learn to control his fire before he burns the palace down." As if on cue, Leo burped. A small puff of green flame escaped his mouth and set the tablecloth on fire. I shrieked and grabbed a glass of water, dousing the flame. Valerius didn't move. He just smirked. "See? Fine," I sighed, wiping the soot. "Tutors. But no combat. No swords." "We will see." Valerius sipped his wine. Suddenly, the doors to the dining hall burst open. A woman walked in. She was tall, stunningly beautiful, with silver hair and cold blue eyes. She wore a crown. "Valerius," she said, her voice like ice. "I heard rumors. They say you brought a child to the palace." She looked at Leo. Her eyes narrowed with hate. "And a whore." She looked at me. Valerius stood up slowly. The room temperature rose. "Lady Seraphina," Valerius said coldly, "I do not recall inviting you." "I am your fiancée," Seraphina snapped. "I have a right to know if you are parading bastards around the court." I froze. "Fiancé?" I looked at Valerius. He hadn't mentioned a fiancé. "The engagement was political," Valerius said through gritted teeth. "And it is over. I have an heir now. I do not need your father's alliance." "Over?" Seraphina laughed. It was a shrill, dangerous sound. "You think you can discard me for this human dirt?" She raised her hand. Magic crackled around her fingers. "Ice magic." "I will not be humiliated," she screamed. She threw a jagged spear of ice straight at Leo. "No!" I screamed, diving across the table. But I wasn't fast enough. Valerius was. He moved faster than sight. He appeared in front of Leo, catching the ice spear with his bare hand. It shattered against his palm. His eyes turned fully reptilian. Scales began to form on his neck. A roar tore from his throat. A true dragon roar that shook the foundations of the palace. "You dare!" Valerius bellowed. "You dare touch my son!" Fire erupted from his body. Not the small flame Leo had made. An inferno. Seraphina stumbled back, terrified. "Valerius, wait!" "Guards!" Valerius commanded. "Throw her out. If she steps foot in the palace again, burn her alive." The guards dragged the screaming noblewoman away. Valerius turned back to us. The fire died down, but his chest was heaving. He looked at Leo, checking him for scratches. "Are you hurt?" he asked urgently. Leo shook his head, eyes wide with worship. "You caught the ice. That was cool." Valerius let out a breath. Then he looked at me. I was shaking, not from the attack, but from the realization. He had ended a political alliance, threatened a powerful house, and revealed his full monster form, just to protect us. "You didn't tell me you were engaged," I whispered. "It doesn't matter," Valerius said, wiping soot from his hands. "It is finished." "She called him a bastard," I said quietly. "Is he? In the eyes of your court?" Valerius walked over to me. He grabbed my chin, forcing me to look at him. "He is my blood. He is my heir. And tomorrow," he leaned in, his golden eyes burning into mine. "Tomorrow I will marry you, and he will be legitimate, and you will be queen." My jaw dropped. "Excuse me?" "It is the only way to protect him," Valerius said logically. "The court will try to kill a bastard heir, but they cannot touch the prince, and they cannot touch the queen." "I'm not marrying you," I shouted. "We hate each other." "We don't hate each other," Valerius corrected. "We burn for each other. There is a difference." He brushed his thumb over my lip. "Pack your things again, Elara. We are moving to the royal suite. If we are to be married, we should start acting like it." He walked out of the dining hall, leaving me stunned, terrified, and inexplicably excited. I looked at Leo, who was eating another piece of meat. "Mama," Leo said, "I like him. He's strong." "Yes," I whispered, looking at the door. "He is." I was trapped in a palace, engaged to a dragon king, and hunted by his jealous ex-fiancée. It was going to be a very interesting week. The royal suite was not a room. It was a kingdom within a kingdom. The walls were lined with obsidian and gold, the floors covered in furs that cost more than my entire village. And in the center of it all stood the bed. One bed, massive, draped in red silk, looking less like a place to sleep and more like a sacrificial altar. "We are not sharing that," I stated firmly, hugging my arms across my chest. Valerius unclasped his heavy cape, letting it fall to the floor with a heavy thud. He didn't look at me. He began unbuttoning his tunic. "We are to be married at dawn, Elara. The court expects us to share a chamber. If I sleep on the couch, the servants will talk. Rumors will spread that the union is weak, and weakness invites attack. You are the Dragon King," I snapped, turning away as he pulled his shirt off. "Who would dare attack you?" "Everyone," Valerius replied, his voice weary. "The throne is a target painted on my chest, and now it is painted on yours too, and on Leo's." He walked past me toward the wash basin. The heat radiating from his bare skin hit me like a wave. His back was a map of scars, claw marks, burn scars, old wounds from wars I had only heard about in stories. "Sleep," he commanded. "I will take the left side. I do not sleep deeply. If you try to run, I will know. If an assassin enters, I will kill them before they reach the rug." I didn't sleep. I lay on the edge of the massive mattress, stiff as a board, listening to the rhythmic breathing of the monster beside me. He smelled of cedar and smoke. It was a terrifying, intoxicating scent. Sometime in the night, Leo, who slept in a small cot nearby, whimpered in his sleep. Before I could move, Valerius was there. He moved like a shadow. He knelt by the cot, placing a large, scarred hand on Leo's chest. The boy calmed instantly. I watched him in the dark, the ruthless killer soothing a nightmare. It was confusing. It was dangerous, because it made me want to trust him. The next morning, the palace was in chaos. The wedding, or the coronation of the queen, as Valerius called it, was hours away. But first there was the trial. Not a judicial trial, but a social one. The presentation. "They will provoke you," Valerius warned as he fastened a heavy ruby necklace around my throat. His fingers lingered on my pulse. "The nobles, Seraphina's family, they will insult you. They will try to make you cry. They want to prove you are just a fragile human." I survived 5 years in the frozen wastes alone with a magical child. I looked into the mirror, meeting his golden eyes. "I think I can handle a few snobby aristocrats." Valerius smirked. A genuine, dangerous smirk. "That's my girl. Just remember, if they touch you, burn them. If you can't burn them, call me." We entered the great hall. Hundreds of eyes turned to us. Dragons in human form, high lords, ladies with scales glittering on their cheeks. The hostility was a physical weight. I held Leo's hand tightly. Seraphina was there, standing with her father, Lord Pyrax. She looked at me with pure hatred. "So this is the peasant," Lord Pyrax sneered, stepping forward. "The whore who stole the king's seed." The room went silent. Valerius stiffened beside me, his hand going to his sword. I put a hand on Valerius's arm to stop him. I stepped forward. "I am Elara," I said, my voice ringing clear, "mother of the heir, and I suggest you choose your next words carefully, Lord Pyrax. Unless you want to explain to the king why you are insulting his future wife." Pyrax laughed. "A human queen? It is an abomination. You will break, girl. Humans are frail. They die so easily." He snapped his fingers. A small ball of fire, hot and fast, shot from his hand straight at my face. It was a test, a warning. I didn't flinch. I didn't scream. Before the fire could touch me, a small hand shot up. "No!" Leo shouted. Leo didn't just block the fire. He ate it. The flames vanished into his palm, absorbed into his skin. His eyes glowed bright gold. He opened his mouth and burped a puff of smoke. "That was mean!" Leo yelled at the Lord. The court gasped. A 5-year-old absorbing high-level dragon fire? It was unheard of. It was a sign of immense, raw power. Valerius laughed. It was a booming, triumphant sound. He picked Leo up. "You see, Pyrax? My blood runs strong. Even half-human. He is stronger than you." He looked at me with a new respect. I hadn't cowered. I had stood my ground. But as we walked away from the stunned crowd, I saw Seraphina slipping out of a side door. She wasn't scared. She was smiling, and that terrified me more than the fire. Later that afternoon, Valerius took Leo to the training grounds. I watched from the balcony. "Focus, Leo," Valerius instructed. "Feel the heat in your belly. Push it out." Leo scrunched up his face. A tiny stream of fire shot out, setting a straw dummy ablaze. "I did it!" Leo cheered, jumping up and down. Valerius knelt and high-fived him. "Good job. Now again. Harder." I watched them, a knot forming in my stomach. Valerius was a good father in his own twisted way. He protected Leo. He taught him. He was proud of him. But he was also preparing him for war. He was sharpening my sweet boy into a weapon. And this is the terrifying question I keep asking myself. Can a monster raise a child without turning him into a monster too? Valerius burns the world to protect what is his. But I'm scared that one day, his fire will burn us too. If you think I should trust the Dragon King, hit the like button. If you think I should grab Leo and run the moment I get the chance, subscribe and tell me in the comments, because I honestly don't know if I'm falling in love or walking into a trap. Elara. I turned. Valerius was standing behind me on the balcony. He had come up quietly. He was sweaty, his shirt clinging to his chest. "He has talent," Valerius said. He will surpass me one day. He is a child, Valerius. He shouldn't be thinking about surpassing anyone. He should be thinking about toys. In this world, power is the only toy that matters. Valerius stepped closer. He trapped me against the railing. And you surprised me today. You faced Pyrax without blinking. I was terrified, I admitted. You didn't show it. That is what makes a queen. He reached out, touching my face. His thumb traced my lower lip. The sun was setting, painting the sky in blood and gold. The atmosphere shifted. The adrenaline of the day melted into something heavier, hotter. Tomorrow we marry, he whispered. Tomorrow you are mine by law. And tonight, I breathed, unable to look away from his eyes. Tonight, he leaned down, his lips brushing my ear. Tonight, I am just a man asking a woman to stay. He kissed me. It wasn't gentle. It was hungry. It tasted of 5 years of separation, of anger, of longing. I should have pushed him away. I should have slapped him, but I didn't. I wrapped my arms around his neck and kissed him back. We stumbled back into the room, toward that massive bed, but we never made it. A scream tore through the air, came from the training grounds. Leo, I gasped, pulling away. We ran to the balcony. Below, the training dummy was burning, but Leo wasn't there. His wooden toy lay in the dirt, and standing in the center of the courtyard was Serafina, holding Leo by the back of his shirt. She held a dagger of jagged ice to his throat. You took my crown, Valerius, Serafina screamed, looking up at us, her eyes mad. So I will take your heir. Valerius didn't scream. He didn't speak. He vaulted over the railing. He jumped 4 stories down. He landed in a crouch, the stone cracking beneath his feet. Smoke began to pour from his skin. His human disguise was failing. The dragon was coming out. Let him go. Valerius's voice was a demonic growl. And I will let you die quickly. 1 step closer and I bleed him. Serafina pressed the knife. A drop of red blood appeared on Leo's neck. Leo started to cry. Papa! I ran down the stairs, my heart hammering so hard I thought it would burst. I reached the courtyard just as Valerius took a step. No! I shouted. Valerius, stop. She'll do it. I looked at Serafina. Take me. Let the boy go and take me. You? Serafina laughed. You are nothing. A human pet. She looked at Valerius. Choose, my king. Your son or your kingdom. Abdicate the throne to my father, and the boy lives. Valerius looked at his crying son. He looked at his crown. Then he looked at me. I choose. Valerius whispered, his eyes glowing brighter than the sun. Violence. He didn't lunge at Serafina. He lunged at the air. He clapped his hands together with the force of a thunderclap. Boom! The shockwave knocked Serafina off her feet. She flew backward, dropping the knife. Leo fell to the grass. Leo, run! I screamed. Leo scrambled toward me. I caught him, shielding him with my body. Valerius was on Serafina in a second. He didn't use magic. He used his hands. He grabbed her by the throat and lifted her into the air. You touched my blood, Valerius snarled. Now you will burn. Valerius, don't, I yelled. The court is watching. If you kill a noble without trial, it's civil war. He paused. His claws were digging into her neck. Serafina was gasping, blue in the face. He looked at me, the rage battling with logic in his eyes. He threw her to the ground. Arrest her. He barked to the guards who had finally arrived. Throw her in the deepest dungeon. If she sees the sun again, I will execute every single one of you. He walked over to us. The fire in his eyes faded, replaced by terror. He fell to his knees, grabbing Leo, checking his neck. I'm sorry, Valerius whispered, hugging the boy. I'm so sorry. He looked at me over Leo's shoulder. They will pay for this, Elara. I will burn them all. I looked at the fear in my son's eyes. I looked at the hatred in the eyes of the nobles watching from the windows. We weren't safe here. Being queen wouldn't save me. Being a dragon wouldn't save Leo. As Valerius held us, promising fire and blood, I realized that the gilded cage had just locked tight, and the only way out was through the flames. The attack changed everything. Before, the palace was a cage. Now it was a vault. Valerius doubled the guards. Then he tripled them. He placed magical wards on every window, every door, every crack in the stone. He didn't sleep. He prowled the corridors at night, his eyes permanently glowing with a low, dangerous simmer, waiting for a shadow to move wrong. "You are scaring the servants," I told him 2 days before the wedding. He was sharpening his sword in our bedroom, the sound of whetstone on steel grating on my nerves. "Let them be scared," Valerius growled without looking up. "Fear keeps them loyal." Seraphina had help. Someone let her into the training grounds. "Until I find the traitor, no one leaves this wing. Not even you." "I am not a prisoner, Valerius. I am the mother of your heir." He stood up, towering over me. "You are the only weakness I have. If they take you, they break me. I will not let that happen. You stay inside." He slammed the sword into its sheath and stormed out, locking the door from the outside. I slumped against the wood, sliding down to the floor. He wasn't protecting us anymore. He was suffocating us. Leo sat on the rug, making his toy soldiers fight. He looked up at me with sad eyes. "Papa is angry a lot," Leo whispered. "Papa is scared," I corrected, pulling him into my lap. "And scared dragons breathe fire." The wedding day arrived not with joy, but with the heavy atmosphere of a pending execution. My dress was red, the color of House Draconis. It was beautiful, made of silk that rippled like liquid fire, but the corset was tight enough to bruise. When the doors opened, Valerius was waiting. He wasn't wearing ceremonial robes. He was wearing full black armor, polished to a mirror shine, with a red cape flowing behind him. He looked like a god of war. He took my hand. His grip was painful. "Do not leave my side," he instructed, his voice devoid of warmth. "If a fight breaks out, you grab Leo and you run to the altar. The stones there are shielded." "Valerius," I squeezed his hand. "It's a wedding, not a battle. In this court, Elara, there is no difference." We walked into the great cathedral of the dragon. It was packed. Every noble house was there. Lord Pyrax, Seraphina's father, stood in the front row. His daughter was in a dungeon, yet he stood there smiling. Cold, reptilian smile. Why was he smiling? The ceremony was a blur. The high priest rushed through the ancient draconic chants. I could feel the eyes of the court boring into my back. Judgmental, hateful, hungry. They looked at Leo, who was holding the ring cushion, with disgust. "The bastard. The half-breed. Do you, King Valerius, take this human?" "I bond her," Valerius interrupted, his voice booming through the cathedral. "I bind her soul to mine. Her blood is my blood. Her enemies are my enemies. If any man here wishes to object, let him draw his steel now, and I will paint these walls with him." Silence. Absolute, terrified silence. Valerius turned to me. He didn't ask for my vow. He grabbed the back of my neck and pulled me into a kiss that tasted of desperation. Magic surged from him into me, a hot, golden rush that made my knees buckle. He wasn't just marrying me. He was marking me. He was weaving a protective spell into my very skin. "Done," he whispered against my lips. "Now you are queen. Now they cannot touch you without burning." We turned to face the crowd. They bowed, but it was stiff, resentful. "Long live the queen," they murmured, the words sounding like a curse. I looked at Lord Pyrax again. He bowed lower than anyone else. And as he rose, he locked eyes with me. He tapped his chest, right over his heart. I felt a chill. "Valerius," I whispered as we walked down the aisle. "Pyrax, he's planning something." "Let him plan," Valerius sneered, his hand resting on his sword. "I am waiting for an excuse." The banquet was held in the Hall of Mirrors. It was a lavish display of wealth. Mountains of food, rivers of wine, like dancers spinning in fire, but the tension was thick enough to cut with a knife. Valerius sat on the throne, pulling me onto the seat beside him. He didn't eat. He watched the room. Leo sat between us, playing with a golden goblet. "My king!" Lord Pyrax approached the dais, holding a crystal decanter filled with a shimmering blue liquid, a gift from the elders of the northern peaks, a rare vintage, aged in ice caves, to cool the dragon's fire on his wedding night. Valerius eyed the bottle. "I do not drink gifts from traitors, Pyrax." "Traitor?" Pyrax looked mockingly hurt. "My daughter acted alone, sire. She was mad. I have disowned her. I only wish to serve the crown. Please, a toast to the new queen. Unless you fear a simple drink." The court watched. To refuse a peace offering at a wedding feast was a grave insult to the elders. Could spark a rebellion among the northern clans. Valerius knew this. He stood up. "I fear nothing," he declared. He took the decanter. He poured a glass. "No." I touched his arm. "Valerius, don't." "It's fine," he murmured. "My dragon blood burns through any poison. Arsenic, nightshade. It's just spice to me." He raised the glass. "To the queen." He drank. The court applauded politely. Pyrax smiled and backed away. For a moment, nothing happened. Valerius sat back down, his hand resting on my knee. Then his grip tightened. "Valerius?" I asked. He didn't answer. His hand clamped down on my leg, hard enough to bruise. His breathing hitched. "Valerius, you're hurting me." He turned to look at me. His eyes were wrong. The gold was gone. The vertical pupils had blown wide, turning his eyes entirely black. "Hot," he rasped. "Too hot." He stood up, stumbling. He knocked over the table. Dishes shattered. Leo screamed. "Papa!" Valerius roared. But it wasn't a roar of anger. It was a roar of agony. Smoke poured from his mouth. His skin began to crack, revealing magma-like scales beneath. "Run!" Valerius gasped, looking at me with panic in his black eyes. "Elara, run. I can't." "Hold it." Lord Pyrax stepped forward, his voice ringing out clear and triumphant. "It is not poison, my king. It is dragonbane. It does not kill the dragon. It drives it mad." Pyrax turned to the horrified court. "Look at him. He is losing control. The beast is waking. He will burn us all. He is unfit to rule." Valerius screamed, clutching his head. His humanity was stripping away. The protective, possessive love was twisting into pure, blind, destructive rage. He looked at Leo not with recognition but as a threat. "Get away from him!" I grabbed Leo and scrambled back. Valerius swung his arm. A wave of fire exploded from him, incinerating the banquet table. The nobles screamed and fled toward the doors. But the doors were locked. Pyrax had trapped us all in with a mad dragon. I looked at the man I had just married. He was gone. In his place was a monster of fire and scale, thrashing in pain, destroying everything in reach. And I realized Pyrax's plan. He didn't want to kill Valerius. He wanted Valerius to kill us. He wanted the king to murder his own queen and heir in a fit of madness, so the realm would have no choice but to put the mad king down. I stood in front of Leo, armed only with a dinner knife. The dragon turned toward us. Smoke hissed from his nostrils. He prepared to breathe fire. I had to make a choice. Run and let the court massacre him, or stand my ground and try to reach the man buried under the madness. I looked at his black, soulless eyes, and I realized that loving a monster meant being the only one brave enough to walk into the fire. "Valerius!" I screamed, dropping the knife and stepping toward him. "Look at me!" The dragon hesitated. The fire gathered in his throat. I was betting my life on one thing, that his obsession with me was stronger than the madness in his blood. But as the flames built up in his chest, ready to turn me to ash, I wondered if I had made a fatal mistake. The fire in Valerius's throat was blinding. It was a star about to be born, hot enough to vaporize stone. I didn't flinch. I didn't cover my face. I stepped into the heat. "Valerius!" I screamed, my voice cutting through the roar of the flames. "Look at me. I am Elara. I am your wife." The dragon paused. The massive, scaled head twitched. The black eyes narrowed, confused by the prey that refused to run. "He's going to kill her!" A noble screamed from the back of the hall. "Do it, beast!" Lord Pyrax shouted triumphantly. "Burn your weakness away!" The dragon lunged. He opened his maw. But before the fire could release, a small figure ran past me. "No!" Leo yelled. He ran right up to the dragon's snout. He was so small against the massive beast. He reached up and placed his tiny hands on the dragon's hot scales. "Bad Papa!" Leo scolded, his eyes glowing gold. "Stop it!" The dragon froze. The fire in his throat sputtered. He looked down at the small boy, the boy who smelled like his own blood, the boy who had his eyes. I ran to them. I placed my hands over Leo's, touching the dragon's face. My skin blistered from the heat, but I didn't let go. "You marked me, Valerius?" I whispered, pouring every ounce of my love and stubbornness into the bond he had created at the altar. "You said my soul is bound to yours. If you burn me, you burn yourself. If you kill us, you die." I pressed my forehead against his scales. "Come back to us. Come back to your son." For a terrifying second, nothing happened. The beast breathed heavily, smoke curling around us. Then, a shudder went through the massive body. The blackness in his eyes began to recede, pushed back by a ring of gold. The madness of the Dragonbane collided with the ancient, primal instinct to protect his mate and cub. Valerius let out a low, whining sound. He pulled his head back. He looked at Pyrax. The confusion in his eyes vanished, replaced by clarity and rage. "Oh no!" Pyrax whispered, his smile falling. Valerius roared, but this time he didn't aim at me. He spun around, his tail knocking over a row of stone pillars. He faced the traitor. "Guards!" Pyrax shrieked, backing away. "Kill the beast! He is mad!" The royal guards didn't move. They saw their king. They saw the queen standing unharmed. They knew who to obey. Valerius didn't shift back to human form. He wanted Pyrax to see the monster he had tried to unleash. He stalked toward the lord, his claws gouging deep trenches in the marble floor. "You wanted a dragon?" Valerius's voice boomed in everyone's minds, a telepathic projection of pure fury. "Then have one." Pyrax tried to run to the door, but Leo, standing beside me, raised his hand. "Stay," Leo commanded. A wall of golden fire erupted in front of the door, blocking Pyrax's escape. The boy was learning fast. Pyrax turned around, trembling, trapped between a child prodigy and a furious dragon king. Valerius opened his mouth. There was no hesitation this time, no mercy. A torrent of white-hot fire engulfed Lord Pyrax. He didn't even have time to scream. In seconds, there was nothing left but ash on the floor. Valerius cut the fire. He turned to the cowering nobles, the ones who had insulted me, the ones who had called Leo a bastard. "Anyone else?" His voice echoed in their heads. The entire court dropped to their knees. Foreheads touched the floor. Total submission. Valerius looked at them with disdain. Then he turned back to us. The rage melted away. He collapsed, his massive form shrinking, scales dissolving into skin. He shifted back. He lay on the ruined floor, naked, shivering, covered in sweat and soot. I ran to him, pulling off my heavy red wedding cloak and draping it over him. "Elara!" he gasped, gripping my hand so hard it hurt. Did I hurt him? Is Leo safe?" "He's safe," I cried, kissing his soot-stained forehead. "We're all safe. You came back." Leo jumped onto Valerius's chest, hugging him. "You were scary, Papa, but I fixed you." Valerius laughed, a broken, relieved sound. He hugged his son. He looked at me with eyes full of tears. "I thought I lost you," he whispered. "The darkness. It was so heavy. You can't get rid of me that easily." I smiled through my tears. "I'm the queen, remember?" Valerius looked at the ashes of his enemy, then at the kneeling court, and finally at his family. "Yes," he said, sitting up and pulling us both close. "Long live the Queen." The Obsidian Palace was different now. The windows were open. The heavy, oppressive drapes were gone, replaced by light silks that danced in the wind. I sat in the garden, watching Valerius teach Leo how to fly. They were both in their partial forms. Wings sprouted from their backs. Valerius hovered a few feet off the ground, holding Leo's hands as the boy kicked his legs in the air. "Higher, Papa! Higher! Patience, little dragon!" Valerius laughed. The sound was light, free of the burden he used to carry. He looked over at me. He landed and walked over, folding his large black wings behind him. He looked healthy, strong. The paranoia was gone. He didn't need to fear the shadows anymore because he had burned them all away. "He is a natural," Valerius said, kissing my cheek. "He will be a better flyer than I ever was. He has his mother's stubbornness," I teased. Valerius wrapped his arms around my waist, resting his chin on my shoulder. "I was thinking," he murmured, "the palace is big. Leo gets lonely. He needs a flight partner. Someone smaller." I turned in his arms, raising an eyebrow. "Are you suggesting what I think you are suggesting?" "I'm suggesting we secure the line of succession." Valerius grinned, that old arrogant charm returning, but tempered with love. "And I missed the first 5 years of this one. I want to do it right this time. The cradle, the first steps, all of it." I looked at Leo, who was chasing a butterfly with a puff of smoke. I looked at the man who had gone from a terrifying monster to a devoted father and husband. I had been kidnapped, imprisoned, and nearly incinerated. It had been a chaotic, dangerous fairy tale. But looking at them, I knew I wouldn't trade a single second of it. "Okay," I whispered, kissing him. "But this time you are changing the diapers." Valerius laughed, picking me up and spinning me around, his wings wrapping around us like a shield. "Deal." The Dragon King had his treasure. And for the first time in the history of the Empire, the treasure wasn't gold or power. It was us.